NaNoJouMo 2016 with Creative Katie. That's me, Karen Burchell. Take time to hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner and you won't miss any videos. This NaNoJouMo, I'm off prompt. I just didn't work well with the prompts. And this one's entitled Warm Winter Wishes. So I had a background that I had started about 2.5 weeks ago that I used my script stencil, Art Is, from Crafter's Workshop, and I put modeling paste on. And over time, and doing other pages, it got some red on it and some sprays. So I'm just going to give it a coat of white gesso to, one, kind of get rid of the red pink colors, and two, seal those pink colors in so they don't interfere and react with anything that I'm going to do on this page. So this page has been in my head for a while, and I don't know if it's because I've moved to a place where the likelihood of getting snow is a lot less, and it definitely isn't going to last for the usual 6 months of winter that I've experienced in Saskatchewan all my life. But I do love snow and snowflakes, so I'd cut some snowflakes with my silhouette, and I'm just using some of them as a template or stencil, and I'm putting iridescent medium through. So this is a bit of a test to see. I am going to be adding color medium on this, and I'm not sure if this is going to act as a resist or if we're even going to see any of this iridescent medium after the fact. I kind of want to know, so we're trying it out. And that's how you find out how to do things when it comes to art journaling. Just try. So many times people leave comments to me and asking, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's like, yes, unless you're dealing with something like alcohol inks that's flammable and there's chemicals involved and you're not sure what you're getting and it may actually require some specific handling. Pretty much anything can happen. I mean, either it's going to work or it's not going to work, so you're risking that. But worst case scenario, you rip out the page or, cover it with gesso and start over. So I'm just stamping with a sponge, with a makeup sponge, the iridescent medium, and you can see some of the shine that's there. And like I said, you and I are going to find out if this is going to stand up and be seen at the end product. So I have a couple stamps, snowflake stamps, that I picked up in one of my last trips to Michael's. These were in their bargain bin sale. They were either $2 or $3, and then they were on sale. And I'm using my Prussian blue, and it's a Grumbacher brand because Basics doesn't carry Prussian blue. And I'm just applying it to the stamp with a makeup sponge and just stamping it on. And again, I'm not sure how much of these snowflakes with this dark blue are going to show through. But we're going to find out. I just want a smattering of these, and I just basically want to build different amounts of texture. The iridescent medium is going to react a certain way, the stamping with acrylic is going to look a different way, and that's how you get visual texture, by applying different mediums in different ways. So we already have the texture paste, the iridescent medium, now the acrylic stamping, and I have a smaller stamp here, and I'm just going to put it on one of them. Now I could just take off one snowflake and just put that on the stamp, but that would make sense. So I'm just putting some smaller snowflakes here and there. And as always, when you use your stamps with acrylic paint, or when you stamp into gesso, always, always, always make sure you take the time to clean them. And I just use an old stencil brush to get into the nooks and the crannies to make sure I get all that acrylic paint out. It's not something I want to forget, and so that's why I do it right on camera as a reminder for you. And I just know sometimes by the time I get to the end, things get left. So I've decided to dig out my Inktense blocks, and you all know me, these are one of my most favorite art tools. They are well loved, many of them are broken, and I'm just pulling out some blues and some teals. I want a snowy, wintry type background. And I'm just scribbling on colors here and there. I really don't have a plan. I just want darks and lights of the teal and the navy and the blues together. I'm putting a paper towel in between the pages because this is going to get very wet. To activate the Inktense blocks, I'm just going to spray it with water, and it takes quite a bit. And I was going to activate it with the brush, but that was making it too neat and tidy. And I'm planning on using the salt technique here. So I want puddles of water. So I'm just adding more water and more Inktense blocks as I see fit. And I'm really not trying to blend the colors too much. All these colors work together. They all sit beside each other on the color wheel. So they're not going to make mud. They're all going to look lovely together, but I don't want it to be one solid color at the end. I want to build visual interest by having highlights and lowlights amongst this blue teal family. Getting it moving, and I want to prevent the water from getting into the coils and getting onto the other pages. This Mixed Media Canson art journal is almost complete. I believe I have 3.5 more pages to finish. And so there I'm sprinkling sea salt. It's coarse, not fine. You can use fine, you can use table salt. Everyone's going to give you a slightly different effect. So, experiment. Try what you have and see. So this is going to take a long time to dry. And I do a combination of drying it, letting it dry naturally, and drying it with a heat tool. So here is a die cut, I guess, is the term, that I cut using my Silhouette Cameo. And of course, I've cut it out on thin tag board, and it's this lovely orange color. The reason being, this is what I have, and I'm just experimenting with cutting things out and trying to get used to the machine. So it will be painted. So I'm mixing up some of the Prussian blue and the black, and there's a little bit of that iridescent medium still on the plate, so I mix that in. So I'm just going to cover all this orange and putting it on rather thick because I want the sides covered, and I don't want to be able to see orange peeking through. That would definitely not go well in the picture in my head of where I want this to go. So I've sped up this video to double time. In real life, it took about 45 minutes, and that was starting on a page that already had the texture paste through the stencil on it. So it probably would take close to an hour from start to finish in real life. And I tell you that because you need to know it's not a 20-minute process. Not when you're adding layers and textures and different colors and using different techniques. It all takes time. And just putting another little bit of a layer there. So I'm having quite a lot of fun with my Silhouette Cameo, um, cutting things. So in all likelihood, in the next few videos, you're going to see a lot of things that I've cut. That's the whole purpose. You know, I have a new toy, I've got to use it, I have to experiment with it, work out the bugs, and go from there. But I am enjoying it. This die cut was a real pain, I must admit, to get all the little bits out of the little snowflake. So that definitely added to the overall prep time that's not accounted in that 45 minutes. Now, if you don't have a Silhouette machine and you don't have this cut file, you can just cut out some evergreen trees, cut out some swirls, paint them black, and have some snowflakes, and make this on your own. It doesn't require the cut file. That just makes it quick and easy. So I'm drawing this background some more, and it always takes a long time. There's a lot of water that goes in, and even though it was gessoed, it's taking a long time. And then very gently with my fingertips, I'm just rubbing the salt off. And you can see all the beautiful texture that has been created. You do see some of the iridescent medium poking through. I don't think it shows on the camera, the video. And you do see some of the stamping with the acrylic, but that's been pushed back. So there's just lots of layers of visual and physical texture on this. Now the Inktense blocks, if you looked at the bottom of my fingers, the pads of my fingers, you would see they're kind of colored and dusty. So some of that rubs off. And then the whole time I wanted the page to go this way, and then I suddenly decide that I'm going to turn it. The script, I don't care that the script is going to go up and down instead of side to side. It's just visual interest, it's visual texture. I just liked it better for the composition of the page. So I'm really liking how the black here really pops off this background. So here I've used the Silhouette to cut stencils that I've used in the background, but then also to cut out the focal point. Now I'm putting a generous layer of gel medium, matte, on the background, and I'm trying to avoid rubbing because I don't want to smear the texture because it's behind the focal point. If it smeared a little bit, I was okay with that, but it really didn't move. So whether it had dried enough or I heat set it, the Inktense block here was very permanent with the gel medium, which is one of the reasons I find that I use the gel medium. If I have the Inktense blocks in the background, I find it is less likely to activate than if I used Mod Podge. Now the matte medium, while it goes on, the gel medium goes on kind of white and cloudy, it dries clear. And because it's matte, there is no shine. So it's not going to take away from the background in any way, shape, or form. So then I went back to my silhouette and I cut out the saying Warm Winter Wishes, and I hit the wrong cut one. I was actually going to glue the letters down, but instead I decided I'm going to use the stencil part of this. So you see the center part of the A is painted in because of course the circle part fell out, and you'll see me fix that later. It's also didn't quite go on so smoothly because there's a lot of physical texture in this background from the salt technique. And again, I just cut out of this thin tag board. I'm okay with, if it only gives me a couple good uses, I'm okay with that. So I have some black, just regular craft paint, and I thinned it down, and I'm attempting to go over the letters with a liner brush, and very quickly I decide that the liner brush isn't thick enough, so I grab my small round brush, and I'm just going over it because I want it to be a little bit darker. And I want to fill in some of those nooks and crannies from the texture so that the black really pops. So you see I have the silhouette happening with the focal point, and now the same with the dark, making the letters dark black that really pops together. So after I give this a quick dry, you're going to see me get out my white gesso, and I'm going to paint over the center part in the A's and the E, the A and the E's. I could have chosen to leave it. It was perfectly fine the way it was. Everybody could read it. It was okay. And that's a creator's decision. But I wanted to turn it back blue. So then I get out my Inktense blocks and I just, with a wet brush, rub right on the block and paint over top of the white gesso. And I'm getting a couple of the colors so that I can get it as close as possible to the background. So now that I have this black with the focal point and the letters and the saying, I'm grabbing out my black gelato and I'm going to edge the whole thing. This time, instead of just smudging, I am wetting my finger and activating the gelato. Now, I could have used my black Inktense blocks. I could have used my Stabilo All Pencil. I could have used my Neocolor 2. A lot of things. What was necessary here was the black, as it just kind of finishes off this page and ties it all in. I am thinking briefly here about getting the iridescent medium out again and the snowflake stencil and putting it on top to get a little bit more of that iridescent. And I decide I'll remember that and use that technique later. Grab my silver Sakura Jelly Roll pen. Love, love, love these. They just go on they're so smooth, they're so easy to use. This is a case of the product, if it's a little bit more expensive, it's worth it. And I'm just using the silver. I have a technique video on using the salt technique where I use the salt technique with other mediums. including the Inktense blocks. And I'll put a link to that in one of the iCards, and you can go and check that out. So if you like this effect and you don't have Inktense blocks, you can still get the same effect using whatever mediums you have. Acrylic paints, watercolor crayons, etc. Now I was going to splatter with silver, and you tell me wipe that up, and then I grab the white. I want to make this just that little bit more frosty. So I'm spraying it with water. And splattering. And of course, the first splatters didn't look exactly like I wanted them. They were too big. So I grabbed the baby wipe and wiped it up. And it really is set those Inktense blocks this time, because normally that should have reactivated and it didn't. So I was lucky. I'm just putting the white all over till I have that fine mist of snowflakes. I really like how this page turned out. I think I'm going to use this or parts of this on some watercolor cards for Christmas. Love the background. Here's some still shots of the page and some close-ups so you can see all the lovely texture. This background just is yummy. So you could create the same background, different colors, put a different focal point and have a completely different page. I hope you find something in this tutorial that inspires you and you're going to take and run with and create a wonderful page or card. If you do, I'd love to see it. Come share it in my Facebook group, All Things Mixed Media, Creative Katie. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a comment. I love reading people's comments and I always answer back.